Hello chickies, welcome to the Fully Booked Penguin channel. I am Hannah and today we are doing my June reading wrap up. Now if you hear the screams of children, I believe it's holidays. I didn't know it was holidays, but it appears to be the case. Okay, so today we are doing my June wrap-up. I actually had a really good reading month, mostly in 1 week. But I have some stats here for us first. So it says 9 books, but I did also have 1 DNF. Most of it was light-hearted and adventurous, I suppose, and mysterious. Ooh. And, surprise, surprise, usually I have under 300 pages is what most of the books are for the month. But this month, 78% were from 300 to 499 pages. Big books for me. Little pat on the shoulder. All of it was fiction. We had 4 romances and then 2 of a whole heap of other things. Alright, and my average rating was 3.94, so 4 stars average rating. That's our little stats for the month. And I did half digital and half physical as well. So I've got my little pile of physical books, and then I have all my digital versions. So the first book I actually read was on the first day of the month. I just knocked it out of the park right away. And it was The Mystery of the Spiteful Letters by Enid Blyton. This is a middle grade mystery series, and it follows a group of 5 kids and a dog. And they're just going around solving little mysteries, dodging the local Bobby, Mr. Goon. And in this one, we were following them as just various people around the village started getting these spiteful letters about their pasts, and no one quite knew why. And obviously they have these certain, hidden pasts or secrets that they didn't really want others knowing. But this random villain was posting letters out and making everyone a bit scared. And so the kids set out to find out who is sending these little letters. In my notes I said, it was fun watching Frederick solve the mystery. Because really, in this series, I find it is mostly Frederick. They call him Fatty, but he's Frederick. And mostly it's just him solving the mysteries with the help of Bets and Buster. And the others do little bits and pieces, but really, it's mostly the brainwork of Bets and Frederick. The others don't really contribute much to the story other than be annoying and really, they're less so in this book, but in others, they're really mean to Frederick. It had a lot of twists, as in it might be this person but it might be this person, a lot of false leads and stuff. For adults it's pretty easy to clue into who it could be, but I think for middle graders it's actually quite a good back and forth to follow along with these young sleuths. Also, this is a more recent publication, so I don't know quite what is in the other earlier versions, but they did have to revise it. I think there was a bit of racism or something like that in these books, so I do have the recent release that doesn't have any of that. But otherwise I found it an interesting, fun little time, so I gave The Mystery of the Spiteful Letters a 4 stars. Okay, so next up I read A Stepmother's Märchen, and this is volume 4 of the manhwa, which is a Korean visual novel. The original story was written by Spice&Kitty, but the artwork is by ORKA. In this one, we are following Shuri, who is the widow of a Marquis, and so that makes her a Marchioness. And the Marquis was an older man. She was very young when they got married, and really, they didn't have a marital relationship. It was almost like he was training her to become the mother of his children that he already had with his first wife. So once her husband died, she was in charge of trying to push off other family members who wanted to take power. Then also there was a lot of political things going on to protect, again, for their power. So she was there trying to protect this family left behind. But on the day of the eldest's wedding, she ends up traveling by carriage to leave them because now the son can take over the family. But unfortunately for her, she is attacked and killed. And time reverses to the funeral of her husband. And she is determined to do things a bit differently because really in the first timeline, she wasn't super close with the kids. They all hated her pretty much. Or, they said they did. She's determined to keep them together, to grow a better relationship, and redo things that she regretted in the first timeline. But there's a lot of politics. There's a heretical church in there. you know, with the heretical priests and stuff going on. The whole we're doing it for God, but not really. And it's just fun. It is a bit of fantasy, obviously, but historical manhwa. And in this one, we are following Shuri in her past. So we get her death from the view of the kids. And we get to see also Nora, who is like a family friend, his reaction to it and the mystery behind her death, because no one quite knows who's behind it. Obviously, we do kind of suspect who was behind it, but, you know, the kids are there trying to deal with this grief and their own regrets because now she is truly gone. And then we get the backstory of the Crown Prince, the heretical priesty man, and then we get a little peek into a time skip because they are much older now after the time skip than these little pictures were taken. This series, obviously, because it's images, sets such a vivid scene and emotional like journey, and I adore each of the characters that is painted. You are intrigued, you are trying to figure it out along with the other characters, but it's done in such a pretty way. Even the bad guys, or the characters you don't necessarily like, have some backstory to them. Obviously this one focuses on the Crown Prince and the heretical priest man, and with the Crown Prince, obviously you sympathize with his past, but it doesn't make his current self any less creepy. What's funny about the priest is that he had this moment of enlightenment where he gets enlightened and is still heretical. It's like he goes from one extreme to the other extreme, and like with everything, it's not about either extreme. No, they're both wrong. It's more something in the middle that's correct. But he went from one end to the other and just skipped the truth right in the middle. So you can't help some people. But yeah, it's such a great fun journey that I love going on, and it's pretty. So I 100% recommend picking it up. If you're new to manhwa, this is probably one of the better ones if you like a little bit of romance, a lot of intrigue, politics, but a lot of found family and sort of lovable vibes. So yeah, of course, 5 stars for that one. There is no other rating in my mind for such an amazing book. Alright, next up we have The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the first book in the Naturals series, which is a young adult crime thriller series. In this, we are following Cassie, who is recruited by the FBI to join a crew of teenagers, because we all know teenagers are the secret to solving all mysteries on Earth. And so she joins this task force to learn how to be a profiler. And yeah, it goes from there. She meets the other kids in this one and starts the journey and tries to solve a cold case that has become more of a current case. Now, because this series is about a profiler, they do get in the mind of the killer. So if you don't like having the mind of the killer on the page, like that creepy sort of, you know what's wrong and it's just like delusional and cruel, probably don't go for this one. But, you know, as a mystery thriller, it's psychological and all that sort of stuff going on. I felt so good about this book because I figured out who the bad guy was so early on. I was like, yes. I mean, you don't really get into the main mystery until, like, you get glimpses, but main mystery until I think halfway through or something. But I figured it out from that point. And okay, it's more that I had a sixth sense when it came to the killer. I didn't know why they did it. I didn't know how they did it. I knew nothing of the why or anything. I just knew it was this person. Now, Cassie is a little bit slow to get things. For being such a great profiler, like such a natural, she really misses obvious clues. And even with one of the other members of the team, it's pretty obvious some of his past because one of the other characters keeps hinting at it. And the hints, they're not subtle. The only thing I really didn't enjoy about this book is there is a love angle or love triangle. 2 guys, both like the main girl, and she kisses both in the first chunk of the book. It's not near the end. It's right it's right near the beginning. So you're like, oh wow, you barely know these people and you're just smooching them. I don't like it when they have 2 blokes fighting over her or, you know, etc, etc. I am a one true love kind of girl. Even if you introduce a bloke in the beginning of the series who's not the bloke she's with at the end of the series, I don't especially love that either. I don't mind if it's slow burn where she doesn't have a guy until near the end. where it's all just friendship and then they blossom into something else. But this one guy up here, another bloke here, maybe another flirtation in here, and then finally she gets with this bloke. Not my vibe. And same as Love Angles, where she sort of swaps between the two, and then finally she chooses one right at the end. So in the end, I did settle on a 4 stars for this book, The Naturals. I enjoyed myself, and it was very quick. The writing is speedy. You get through it really quickly. It's not like you're sitting there going, oh, when will this chapter end? Because the chapters are pretty short. But yeah, there was just a few things that I was like, didn't love about it, but I still enjoyed myself. So therefore, that is why The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes gets a 4 stars. Alright, next up we have A Beguiled Gentleman by Audra Wells. And this is the first book in the Bradley Brothers series. And it is a historical romance, but it is a clean romance. So in this one we are following the redhead Hannah. And I felt like my identity was being stolen until we got to the fact that she is a little bit clumsy, she's socially a little bit awkward, and she keeps getting into trouble, so her family keeps moving. Nothing too scandalous. In fact, I feel like her family may have overreacted just a smidge. And then we have Noah, who is a lawyer, but he was in love with a woman right at the start, and she rejected his proposal because she was going to go to the town, to the city, and find a different man there. And so his poor little heart was broken, and unfortunately Hannah happened to be there at the time, not on purpose, but eavesdropped on the situation, and they strike up this weird friendship, support ship, and it blossoms from there. Now, their friendship does kick up a bit of scandalous assumptions and things flying around, but also it's one of those things. Sometimes they're really strict on, you know, where the ladies and that should meet, and the next moment they're off on these adventures, no chaperones in sight, or, you know, if there is, they're sort of like, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, I would not be out there doing half the stuff that Hannah did in this book. Nothing too scandalous, of course, it's a clean romance, but it definitely could be seen as scandalous. And the thing is, Noah is very set on them being friends because he's just had his heart broken and he believed himself to be head over heels, truly in love, like the one love of a lifetime kind of situation. And suddenly he strikes up a friendship. He's not thinking about romance. But the thing is, all his actions are a little bit more than I would say friends usually do. For a guy who only sees her as a friend, he was definitely taking a few liberties with his friendship. Not in his brain, perhaps, but in his physical, in his actions he was, not necessarily in his thoughts. But I was like, especially in this, you know, historical moment. And there were a few embarrassing moments, but it was more like a door, you poor thing, rather than cringe, close the book, chuck it across the room kind of situation. And a few of the redemption, forgiveness arcs were completely unbelievable to me. But then we have established that in fictional world I am a vengeful soul and I don't forgive easily, which is probably incorrect, and I should probably read my Bible and, you know, consult with the Lord over that, but they're fictional. I figure I can do it if it's fictional. In real life, I do tend to be much more forgiving, don't worry. But when it comes to fictional. Now, I do look forward to the rest of the series because I did rate this one a 4.5 stars. It was almost a 5 stars. It was amusing, it was fun, but it didn't quite get there in the end because there were just a couple of things that I didn't quite love as much as the rest. But I am looking forward to seeing the other brothers and what happens with their romances. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Audra Wells brings us next in the series. Next up we have The Mistress of Tall Acre by Laura Frantz. This is another historical romance with a little sprinkling of Christian romance in there. Okay, so in this one we are following Sophie, who owns a property next to a General Seamus, and it's just after the American Revolution. Her father was on the side of the Tories, you know, the English. So while he's run off to England, she's left there in this place getting ostracized because of her father's deeds, even though she fully supported the American side in it. We have her in this house, and Seamus comes home after the war to run the property again, and he brings with him his young daughter. And she strikes up a friendship with the daughter and Seamus. And throughout it, we are sort of focusing on this relationship, but I can't remember whether it's like the 50% mark. We do come up with a bit of a mystery plot. There is a disappearance, there is a reappearance, and a lot going on back and forth. I liked Seamus, but then once an event happens, there's a little bit of, I don't know, avoidance tactics put in, and I am not a fan of avoidance tactics. I feel like if you avoid someone and purposely neglect them, I think neglect for me is a huge no, and is one of the things that take a bit of effort to come back from, in my personal opinion. Our girl has her standards and keeps to them, and meanwhile, yeah, there's this mystery subplot, a lot of different conversation points. I felt like nothing happened until suddenly the mystery plot came in. It was sort of still cozy and fun to read. The last 30% and then right at the end, it all felt a bit strange. It was like they were trying to make us feel like, oh no, what's going to happen? But it was pretty easy to guess how it was going to be wrapped up. And I'm unsure why some of the decisions were made by some of the characters, but at the same time I could oversee it. But the ending was really wrapped up so quickly. Like 1 second it was all mayhem, all downhill, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, I didn't get to dwell in the happiness at the end. It was sort of just, okay, done. And I was like, oh, but I wasn't ready. I wanted to see the loving relationship post this big blow up, but we didn't really get any of that, unfortunately. So it was an enjoyable book. I had a good time, but there wasn't any moments which really gripped me, or I was like, oh, this is such a good moment either. So it was a bit of an interesting time. And that is why in the end I did give it a 4 stars. So that was The Mistress of Tall Acre by Laura Frantz, 4 stars. Okay, next up we have Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. And this is book 2 in the Throne of Glass series. This was a buddy read. We were reading it from, I think, January to the start of June. And this follows Selena, who is a royal assassin for the King of Ardalan. And before that, she was just an assassin for the Assassin King. So she's sort of changed hands, but she's still assassinating people. And I can't really go into much. There's a bit of adventure and intrigue. You know, kingdom politics and stuff. The King of Ardalan is evil. There's like black magic-y sort of stuff going on. Creatures in the night, that sort of thing. Manipulations, magic that isn't magic because the king banned magic. But I consider the magic that he's this black magic to be magic, so obviously he doesn't ban all magic, just the magic that, you know, counts as his. A lot of, you know, politics, murder, mayhem. There's no secret that I don't particularly like our main character. And after this book, really my 2 favourite characters in this entire series is Fleetfoot and Selena's guard, Ress. Not Kale. Ress. The guy you hear about like 4 times in the entire book. I don't mind Kale or Cole or whatever his name is, or Dorian. They're kind of nice. Like, I'm glad that the romance between them and Selena is wrapped up and I don't see it going anywhere. Poor dudes, just being left on the back foot, but, you know, at the same time, I didn't see any future with them. I sort of wished for Kale's heart's sake that it would, but at the same time, I didn't want him to be with her because she annoys the heck out of me. Also, there is Nehemiah, or Nehemiah, in this book, who is sort of the princess of one of the, you know, other kingdoms within Ardalan's influence. And here, I think we're meant to like her, but I hate her, despise her. Everyone says she's a friend of Selena. She's a red flag friend, if ever I've seen one. Like, all her words about, oh, she was helping out Selena. She was not. So yeah, there was a lot of characters I despise in this series, and very few that I'm like, I like you. And even fewer that I love, as seen by the fact that Ress and Fleetfoot, who is a dog, are my favourite characters, and really the only reason I'm reading these books. Again, I like Kale, and Dorian is growing on me. First book didn't particularly like Dorian either, but Dorian is growing on me. But it's hard when you don't like the main character to care. I'm sure there were meant to be parts in this book that you were meant to cry at, but I was kind of a bit heartless, a bit cold-hearted, because when people died, couldn't care less. I was more attached to the little characters on the side in book 1, like the other competitors, than anyone else. Anyway, so I gave it a 3 stars. It's not bad writing. There is a good mystery plot. I liked the mystery and her trying to figure out the mystery. But everything else, everything political, everything romantical, the rebels, couldn't care less. Couldn't care a drop about it. And really, the mystery of the castle was the only thing that kept me intrigued. Like, when we were focusing on that, those chapters, I didn't mind. I enjoyed them. But the rest of it, meh. So I know it's not a popular opinion, but it's a no. Will I continue on with this series? Yes, because I've got the books. I want to know what happens, but I'm not attached to anyone. So let's see who I like in the 3rd book. At the moment, my collection was, Fleetfoot, Rest. These are favourites. And Sam. Even though Sam, near the end of his book, made some terrible decisions. Terrible, dumb decisions that I was like, where did your brain go? Is this just for the plot? It was just for the plot. They needed him to be dumb in order to make dumb decisions. But I was like, if you kept with his initial thinking, he would never have, never. So 3 people that I like in this entire series. Anyway. So 3 stars for Crown of Midnight. Alright, next up we will do my DNF. I finished it somewhere in there, or tried to read it somewhere in there. And I reached the 23% mark before I DNF'd it. I tried to read until the 20% mark, even if I'm hating it, just to give it a chance to grow on me. But this one definitely just got worse and worse. And so I reached the 23% mark and I was like, good riddance. I am so sorry, but no. So Rustling the Cowboy's Heart by Ellie Hall is a Christian country romance, like cowboy romance. And we are following a character who has a boyfriend, but she's been helping out this old bloke who is the father or grandfather of a old friend. But her boyfriend's family and his family have been feuding since forever. Anyway, she was befriending this bloke and writing his biography, I think it was, with him before he passed away, obviously. And in his will, the grandfather or father said that in order to get the family farm, the eldest brother had to get married. Now, I've never understood why these people always put in these clauses to this very important family heirloom, like it is this poor grandson's son's entire life. He loves the place. He wants to keep it running, and they're like, oh, but you have to reach this clause, get married to just some random or someone you love, because they know. And I hate that. I'm like, why would you put your own family through that if you truly love them? I don't know, write a letter saying your wishes rather than trying to manipulate your family into making a decision once you're gone. Dabbling from the grave. Anyway, so a mystery arrives because of certain things in the will and whether this bloke will get his farm and etc, etc. The main issue with this book is the girl has a boyfriend. She's dating someone, right? But in her head, she despises this man. Absolutely not a single good thing about him is playing on in her mind. Every thought she has is, ugh, this dude, or I really should break up with this dude. And in the meantime, she is ooh-la-la-ing over her old childhood friend, the main male character. And she's like, I wish I was marrying him. I wish he was my partner. I've always loved in him. I've always cared for him. And so really she's emotionally cheating on a partner. But instead of just being a good, honourable person and saying, I obviously do not like this bloke I am dating, let's just say, listen, we're not working. But instead of doing that, breaking up with him, she goes to her father and says, listen, I don't think me and so are working out. And the father's like, suck it up, princess. He's a great man. This is an excellent decision. You're just overthinking it. And she's like, okay, I'll stay with him. Like, who in their right mind does that? Just leave the father out of it. He's not the one that has to live with this man. Anyway, so they're not committed to each other at all. But the moment the bloke who is obviously cheating brings another woman along and is obviously with her, I'm like, you're both as bad as each other. It's just that he is showing it. He's actively, physically cheating. And this is meant to be a Christian romance. But they sort of throw God's name in at random points. and about how they're Christian, but none of their actions, none of their thoughts are anything to do with what a Christian or anything should be thinking. And so I was just like, this is not a good book, and the writing was strange. One moment a character would be over here, one moment the girl is thinking, oh, I shouldn't hang around, I should take boyfriend home because he's disturbing this funeral, and the next moment it's dark, everyone is sort of going away, and I'm like, it's just, you know, characters come in for 1 second, then they're gone, and it's just such weird writing on top of the actual, like, story problems and character problems. It was just really bad. Like, I wouldn't recommend this at any point. In fact, I would say to avoid it. It needed a rewrite, a good editor, and some thorough biblical reading. Just a complete overhaul, really. So that was my DNF. I've been ranting for 8 minutes. I will probably cut this down, but still, just no. Okay, next up we have Healing the Mountain Man's Heart by Misty M. Bella, and this is a historical Christian romance, and it is, you know, I don't know whether it's frontier, pioneer, or one of those ones. It's got those western, like, country vibes. Now, in this one we are following Dinah, who is going with her pregnant sister to this place. They travel far because a man has ordered, like, a mail order bride, or made an offer, so Dinah's sister wants to accept this offer, and they head there. Now, in the meantime, Jericho is the one who posted this notice, and he lives on this mountain farm with, like, cattle and stuff, and he has his brothers. There's a whole tribe of them, brothers, and then he also has a niece and nephew. His parents have died, and now he's in charge of this ranch, which is the Sapphire Ranch, and the series is Brothers of Sapphire Ranch, so this is book 1. And he doesn't know that he ordered this bride because someone may have put it up for him. So, of course, the girls arrive, and he's like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, women. But his brother is injured, and Dinah happens to be a doctor. So she, of course, has to help out because of the brother's injury, and from there, they develop a friendship relationship, and, you know, lots of injuries and drama and happenings, and these ones going over here, and then suddenly this one's sick, or this one's injured, or something turns up, and it is very much like an episode, or like a series of Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, like, episodes. It's like female doctor, a lot of stuff happening. Of course, this one has more Christian themes, and, like, just so much happening all at once. It was such a roller coaster of stuff. There was never a dull moment. There were a few strange moments in it, especially to do with propriety, but I put it down to the fact that obviously Dinah's sister is pregnant and unmarried, and Jericho's sister ended up married to the wrong sort of man. Let's put it that way. So both of them have this past, you know, stuff happening. So now they're extra thingy about, oh, don't let two people be alone in the same place, or, you know, don't let the men around the women. So it's a little bit too far, but I put it down to the fact they're a little bit scarred from past trauma or past things happening. But it was interesting, it was fun. But it was like watching a TV show, so I enjoyed myself thoroughly. I gave it a 4 stars, as I say. There were some things that were a bit too ridiculous, a bit all over the place, but I still enjoyed myself. So it's not a 5-star, obviously, but a 4-star feels right. It was enough that it kept me amused. And that was really what I was looking for when I picked up a Rustling and Cowboys card. But when I didn't find it, I got this one instead as a replacement, hoping for the best. And it really surprised me. It was good. So that was Healing the Mountain Man's Heart, book 1 in the Brothers of Sapphire Ranch series by Misty Bella. Now, I did previously say that I was probably going to lean back, withdraw from doing so many, like, rom-com-y, closed-door romances. But I did pick up When Alec Met Evie by Jenny Proctor, which is book 6 in the Appy series, I believe. Now, out of the Appy series, I do prefer Jenny Proctor's writing. She adds some character depth. This series is like Jenny will write one, then Emma Sinclair will write the other. I prefer Jenny's writing. I don't particularly love Emma Sinclair's books in the series, but I do like Jenny's, so it's a bit strange because I like every second book kind of thing. And this one was no exception. Alec is the captain of the Appy's ice hockey team, and Evie is like the friend of his younger sister. But she is recently divorced. She has a child that is still very young. So she's going through all the new mum things, but she's also moved so she can start a new job just fresh off a divorce because her husband decided he didn't want to be a husband and dad. And so she's like left in the lurch from the situation, very low money and that sort of thing. But she's moved, trying to get a fresh start. And Alec is there to help her move in and then help her out when things go a little bit awry. And really I loved how Alec stepped into the position of friend and then maybe more than friend by helping out with Evie's baby and just those fun moments that were heartwarming and cute. But he also has a couple of members in the team which are new to the series or newer, and Alec is helping them through something, the twins. And so it's just a lot of, I mean, more, I guess, emotional moments for them. I didn't really cry or anything, but for them it was like heavier moments and working through it together. No big mayhem, no big, wrongs happening, just them learning, how to work around each other, how to help each other. Very selfless, but also just acknowledging the help that they received as well. And it was just nice and sweet. It was really enjoyable. So I was glad I gave it another chance, but I did give it a chance because of Jenny, because it was Jenny's turn to write. And in this one, again, the Appy's team were once again the fun, caring, really open team members, rather than in some of Emma's, they lose that charm. Whereas in Jenny's, they're still the team. They're still a team, they love each other, they care for each other, as the Brory team members should. So it was a fun little read, so I did give it a 4 stars. I enjoyed myself, and I might, delve into more of Jenny's work. It's been a long journey. And you know what else was a long journey? My final book, and that was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. So obviously I have watched the movies of this before, but never actually tackled the book. And I ended up buddy reading this with a friend because I was struggling. I was like, I don't really want to read this for reasons. And my friend was like, do you want to read a chapter and get back to each other every day? And I was like, yes. Yes, I would. Thank you very much. But I also found an audiobook to read it to me. Instead of me actively doing the reading, I audiobooked it. So much better as an audiobook. I think it's because it's written like it's being told to you. Like you're sitting there and somebody's like, in a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Somebody telling you it. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole, filled with ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that meant comfort. While I can think it in my head, when somebody is reading it to you like that, so much better. But it does get lots of information, a lot of stuff happening. It's a big, long quest book, really. And here's the thing, I think if I didn't have a buddy read and I didn't have it as an audiobook, I would have struggled to get through this book. The thing is, it's a plot-heavy, plot-driven book rather than a character-driven book. I am 100% a character-driven person, so I need characters that are lovable in order to love it. And this one, you never really attach yourself to any of the characters. They don't have much depth to them. And really, when you are given their depth, it's kind of just told to you rather than shown to you. It's told to you. A lot of telling. So it was fun, and sometimes there were a few funny bits, but the dwarves aren't exactly lovable. I mean, I attached myself to Killy and Philly, obviously, because they got cute names. Okay, Thorin, who is the head king dwarf, he's really annoying. He is. I guess they are dwarves, they're a bit thingy, but yeah, I didn't especially love anyone. Gandalf just randomly shows up at moments, which is funny. It gives her a light reprieve. I almost felt like, phew, whenever Gandalf appeared. And Bilbo was such a trooper, such a little trooper going through this whole thing when pretty much everyone bagged him out. The dwarves, the moment he did something wrong, forgot about all his good. And I just, it was an okay story to listen to, and there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with it, but it didn't draw me in. It didn't really capture me because there wasn't that character depth or character drivenness to it. So I know I might be classed as a bit of a heretic, but I do enjoy the movies more than the book, which I know people hate, but I know it's changed a lot. And if you were really, attached to the book first before watching the movies, you might say the movies are horrible and they ruined it, because it is completely different. They have added characters, they've added arcs. So much has been added to the movies that aren't in the books. So I think that adds character because you see all these characters, and they've added Legolas in the movies, and Legolas is not in this. And that random elf lady, and just so many things that weren't in the books. So if you're a book, loyalist, the movies are terrible. Whereas I watch the movies and then I come to the book and I'm like, oh, it's a bit, there's not much character growth or character, really anything in The Hobbit. It's very much plot quest. They get here to here and they win. So that's my thoughts on The Hobbit. I ended up giving it a 3 stars for me personally. Even though it is a classic, I know, but that's just my thoughts on it. So that brings us to a wrap. Finally, I need a drink. I need to probably take a break, probably take a nap after that. So there's all the books I read during June. Look, it was a time. It was a journey, as I say. And I had fun, especially during my week away where I did most of my reading. So much fun. I love it's just sitting down and getting reading done. But I do think I was then on writing mode for the rest of the month. And so I only got a few books in. But I did finish almost my TBR for the month. So that was a thumbs up. The only one I didn't finish was this Chunkster. And I admit I didn't even try. I didn't pick it up. I was like, no, I can't do it. I just looking at that was enough to make me go, no. 800 pages. I just could not be bothered. So it was too daunting. It defeated me. I did not defeat it. It defeated me. And so it is just going to go onto the shelf until I feel the urge to read it. But I do think me and a friend might buddy read this series. But we'll see whether that happens. We might not get to this book, depending on the content my friend likes or dislikes in the series. But that brings us to a wrap-up. So I hope you all had good June reading. By the time you're seeing this, we are already well into July. So I hope your reading is going well for July. I hope my reading gets better for July. And I shall see you all in the next video. So until then, peace.
T26